Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're doing a deep dive on something a bit different. It's a model of pleasure called the 5 levels of pleasure,
Interesting.
and it was developed by Rabbi Noah Weinberg.
Okay.
And our main source material is this YouTube video from an Israeli channel.
Okay.
It's called Demna, Temple, which translates to School for a Happy Life Jewish Wisdom. So
Interesting.
we'll be getting a unique perspective here. And I'm really intrigued by this because, it's not just about like fleeting enjoyment.
Right.
It's about understanding what really drives us
Right.
and prioritizing those drivers for a more fulfilling life.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of like a blueprint for, maximizing your enjoyment in all areas of your life.
Yeah. It's a fascinating framework.
Yeah.
What struck me is that this model, it's rooted in ancient wisdom,
Yeah.
but it offers like a practical roadmap for navigating the complexities of pleasure in our modern lives.
Yeah. And I'm curious to see, how this all kind of plays out.
Absolutely.
So let's break it down, starting with level 1, physical gratification.
Okay.
This one seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
It's all about indulging our senses,
Mm-hmm.
delicious food,
Mm-hmm.
exciting travel, all those material possessions that, we kind of covet.
Yeah. It's the most basic level, the kind of pleasure that, we're often just drawn to instinctively.
Right.
But there's a catch.
Okay.
And the source material illustrates this brilliantly with an example.
Okay.
Example of a dream vacation in Hawaii.
Okay. I like where this is going.
So picture yourself there. You're lounging on those pristine beaches,
Yeah.
sipping on cocktails, soaking up the sun.
Sounds pretty good to me.
Sounds idyllic, right?
Yeah, definitely sign me up. But I have a feeling there's a but coming.
Well, there is. The video points out that even paradise can become mundane after a while.
Okay.
The novelty wears off, the excitement fades, and what was once so exhilarating, it just becomes ordinary.
I see what you mean. It's like that saying familiarity breeds contempt? It's like that time I went on a cruise, and, the first few days were just amazing. But by the end, I was actually looking forward to getting off the ship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The key takeaway here is that while physical pleasures are great, in moderation, they shouldn't be the sole focus of our pursuit of happiness.
Gotcha.
Indulging too much leads to diminishing returns, and the pleasure that we derive from these experiences, it's fleeting.
Okay, so how do we move beyond those fleeting pleasures?
That brings us to level 2,
Okay.
personal projects.
Okay.
This level is about investing in things that are meaningful to us,
Mm-hmm.
things that reflect our passions and our talents.
Okay.
So think about it, raising children, building a business, mastering a new skill.
Right.
These are all examples of level 2 pursuits.
The video specifically highlights the example of parents who prioritize their children over material pleasures.
Mm-hmm.
Even though parenting can be incredibly challenging, the emotional connection and that sense of accomplishment, they outweigh the sacrifices.
Yeah, and that's because level 2 pleasures, they tap into a deeper well of satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just about instant gratification. They're about long-term investment and growth and contribution.
I think it's interesting how this level challenges us to kind of play the long game with our happiness.
Absolutely.
It's like we're so focused on the quick hits of level 1 that we forget about the deeper, more sustainable joy that comes from pursuing something meaningful over time.
Precisely. It's about aligning our efforts with something we truly care about, whether it's a creative project, a professional pursuit, or nurturing a relationship.
So for our listener, this could mean anything from writing that novel they've always dreamed of or like volunteering for a cause that they're really passionate about.
Absolutely. It's about identifying those things that light them up, those
Yeah.
activities that make them feel most alive.
Okay, so we've gone from indulging our senses
Yes,
to investing in something bigger than ourselves.
that's right.
Where do we go from here?
Level 3 takes us beyond self-interest and into the realm of acts of kindness.
Okay, I'm already getting a warm and fuzzy feeling.
This is where we find pleasure in giving, in helping others, and in contributing to something larger than ourselves.
Yeah.
The source material uses powerful examples like firefighters and soldiers
Right.
and everyday heroes who risk their lives to save others.
Yeah.
They really exemplify how putting the well-being of others before your own
Yeah.
can generate a really deep sense of satisfaction and purpose.
So it's not just about doing good deeds. It's about the genuine joy that comes from making a positive impact on the lives of others.
Absolutely. And that joy can be incredibly potent. And I think it's fascinating how the video highlights this inherent human capacity for altruism.
Right.
It suggests that we're wired to find pleasure in acts of kindness and compassion.
I understand the appeal of level 3, but I also wonder if the source material oversimplifies things a little bit.
Okay.
Are there situations where putting others first can be detrimental,
Mm-hmm.
like in codependent relationships, or when it leads to burnout?
That's a great point. And it highlights the importance of balance.
Huh.
While acts of kindness can be incredibly fulfilling, it's crucial to maintain healthy boundaries
Right.
and ensure that our giving doesn't come at the expense of our own well-being.
That makes a lot of sense. So even with level 3, it seems like moderation and self-awareness are really key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about finding that sweet spot where we can contribute to the well-being of others without sacrificing our own.
This is giving me a lot to think about in terms of how I prioritize my own time and energy.
Yeah?
Maybe I should look into volunteering at that local animal shelter I've been meaning to check out.
That's a wonderful idea.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, acts of kindness don't have to be these grand gestures.
Right.
Even small acts like offering a listening ear to a friend in need or helping an elderly neighbor with their groceries can have like a ripple effect.
Right.
I know.
Okay, I'm ready to move on to level 4. What's next on our pleasure climb?
This is where things get a bit more complex.
Oh, boy.
Level 4 is all about control and mastery. The pleasure here comes from feeling like we're in charge,
Yeah.
whether it's mastering a skill or a situation or even other people.
Ah, the allure of power. I can definitely see how that can be tempting. But I have a feeling there are some potential downsides to this level as well.
You're absolutely right. The video cautions us that this desire for control, if left unchecked, can be incredibly destructive.
Yeah.
It uses the example of tyrannical leaders who were consumed by their lust for power, and it led to suffering and chaos.
Okay, so it's not about becoming a control freak.
No.
It's about harnessing that desire for mastery in a way that's positive and productive.
Exactly. The key is to direct this drive towards things like self-discipline, financial management, or mastering a challenging skill. It's about taking control of our own lives in a way that empowers us and those around us.
Instead of trying to control others, we can focus on mastering ourselves.
Precisely. It's about channeling that energy towards personal growth and development.
This raises an important question for our listener.
Oh.
Where do they see this desire for control playing out in their own life? Is it pushing them towards growth and accomplishment, or is it leading them down a path of unnecessary stress and conflict?
Right.
Or maybe it's a little bit of both.
It's a question worth pondering because understanding how this level operates within us is crucial for channeling it
Yeah.
in a healthy and fulfilling way.
This has been incredibly insightful so far. I'm already starting to see how these levels build upon one another.
Good.
Now I'm really curious to hear about level 5. It sounds like the grand finale.
It is. Level 5 is the pinnacle, the joy of existence.
Okay.
This level transcends all the others. It's about finding joy in the simple act of being alive, appreciating the beauty of the world around us,
Okay.
and experiencing a profound sense of connection to something greater than ourselves.
Wow, that sounds intense.
It is a profound experience. The source material uses the Hebrew term simchat chaim to describe this, which translates to joy of life.
Okay.
And it connects this concept to the act of prayer and a relationship with a higher power.
So I can see how that kind of fits within a religious context.
Right.
But for someone who isn't necessarily religious, how would you explain this level? What are some practical ways to kind of tap into that level 5 joy?
There are many pathways to experiencing this level regardless of your spiritual beliefs.
Okay.
Practices like mindfulness and gratitude can be incredibly powerful. Taking the time to appreciate those everyday miracles, like a breathtaking sunset,
Yeah.
a heartfelt conversation,
Yeah.
a moment of quiet reflection. These are all ways to cultivate that sense of awe and wonder that characterizes level 5.
So it's about slowing down, being present, and appreciating the beauty that already surrounds us.
Yes,
It sounds like it's about shifting our focus from what we lack to what we already have.
you're exactly right.
Yeah.
It's about cultivating a mindset of appreciation for the simple gift of life,
Yeah.
all those small things that made our existence so rich and meaningful.
Okay. I'm starting to get a sense of how these 5 levels kind of fit together. It's
Right.
not about completely abandoning those basic pleasures, but rather recognizing their limitations and understanding how they can be enhanced by those higher level pursuits.
Exactly. It's about understanding the nuances of pleasure
Right.
and recognizing that true fulfillment comes from a balanced approach, one that integrates all 5 levels in a way that's meaningful and sustainable.
This has been an eye-opening exploration of these levels of pleasure.
Good.
I'm already starting to see how this model can be applied to my own life.
And remember, you don't have to achieve perfect mastery of each level before moving on to the next.
Right.
The beauty of this model is that it's a continuous journey of discovery and refinement.
Now, before we move on, let's pause for a moment and give our listener a chance to absorb all of this incredible information. Take a minute to reflect on where you find the most pleasure in your own life right now. Are you mostly focused on those level 1 gratifications, or are you finding fulfillment in those higher levels of meaning and purpose?
Right.
Maybe it's a mix of both. And that's okay. The key is to be aware of where you are on the spectrum and to consider how you might want to shift your focus to incorporate more of those higher level pleasures that can lead to lasting joy and fulfillment.
And in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore how this model is viewed through the lens of Jewish tradition. We'll delve into some specific concepts and practices that offer unique insights into navigating these 5 levels.
All right, so we've explored these 5 levels of pleasure, and I'm already feeling inspired to make some shifts in my own life. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's shift gears a bit and look at how this model is viewed through the lens of Jewish tradition.
Okay.
Because remember, our source material comes from a channel that is focused on Jewish wisdom. So this perspective is kind of woven throughout the video.
What's interesting is that while the video emphasizes enjoying life's pleasures, it also stresses moderation and balance.
Yeah.
It's not about denying yourself enjoyment,
Right.
but rather understanding how to experience those pleasures responsibly within a framework of values and purpose.
That reminds me of what we were discussing with those level 1 pleasures. You know, it's not that those sensory experiences are bad,
Right.
but they can become problematic if they're our sole focus.
Exactly. The video uses the concept of mitzvot to illustrate this point,
Okay.
which are commandments or precepts within Jewish law.
Okay.
And it explains that fulfilling these mitzvots can be a source of profound pleasure and meaning.
For those of us who aren't familiar with Jewish tradition, could you elaborate on what these mitzvot entail?
For sure.
What are some examples?
Mitzvot, they encompass a wide range of actions.
Okay.
Some relate to acts of kindness and charity,
Okay.
like helping those in need or supporting charitable causes.
Mm-hmm.
Others involve observing religious rituals and holidays like keeping the Sabbath or celebrating Passover.
Okay.
There are also mitzvot that guide ethical behavior in business dealings and in personal relationships.
So it's about living a life that's aligned with a set of values and principles that emphasize personal growth and contributing to the well-being of others. I can see how that connects back to the 5 levels of pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For instance, visiting the sick is a mitzvah that reflects level 3, acts of kindness,
Okay.
while keeping the Sabbath can tap into level 4's desire for self-mastery by establishing a rhythm and a structure for your week.
That's a helpful way to connect the dots between the model and specific practices. It makes me wonder if other religions or philosophies have similar frameworks for understanding and approaching pleasure. Is this something that's unique to Judaism?
That's a fascinating question.
Yeah.
It would probably take a whole other deep dive to explore that fully.
Right.
But I think it's safe to say that many cultures and traditions grapple with the role of pleasure in a meaningful life.
Okay, let's circle back to the video. It also touches on the idea of finding joy in simplicity, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The video emphasizes that true happiness doesn't necessarily lie in accumulating more possessions or chasing fleeting thrills. It highlights the importance of finding contentment in the everyday moments of life.
That really resonates with level 5, the
Yeah.
joy of existence. It's about appreciating what we already have rather than constantly striving for more.
You're spot on. The video encourages viewers to appreciate the beauty of the natural world, the warmth of human connection, and the simple pleasures of daily life.
This message feels especially relevant today when we're constantly bombarded with messages telling us that we need more to be happy.
Right.
It's a refreshing counterpoint to that consumerist mindset.
It is. True joy often lies in appreciating the present moment and finding gratitude for the blessings in our lives. It's about shifting our perspective and recognizing the abundance that already exists.
So we've talked about the 5 levels of pleasure
Right.
and how they're viewed through the lens of Jewish tradition. Now, how does all of this apply to our listener, regardless of their background or beliefs? What are the key takeaways here?
The most important takeaway, I think, is that this model provides a framework for conscious living. It encourages us to be mindful of the things we prioritize, how we spend our time and energy, and the sources of pleasure that we seek out.
So it's about being intentional about our choices.
Yeah.
Recognizing that different types of pleasure have different levels of impact on our well-being.
Precisely. It's about making sure that we're not neglecting those higher levels in pursuit of just fleeting gratification.
And it's not about deprivation or judgment, right?
Yeah.
It's about finding a balance that works for you,
Mm-hmm.
a balance that allows you to experience the full spectrum of human joy and fulfillment.
That's exactly it. And remember, it's not a one-size-fits-all model.
Right.
It's adaptable, and it can be personalized to fit your own values and goals and circumstances.
That's encouraging. It means everyone can benefit from this model, regardless of their background or their beliefs.
Exactly.
Uh,
What matters is that you take the time to reflect on what truly brings you joy and make conscious choices that align with your vision for a fulfilling life.
all right, we've covered a lot of ground.
They have.
Let's quickly recap the key points.
Okay, we started by exploring the 5 levels of pleasure. Then we examined how this model is interpreted within the context of Jewish teachings, emphasizing moderation and balance and finding joy in fulfilling mitzvot.
Mm-hmm.
We also discussed how these principles can be applied to our lives, regardless of our backgrounds, encouraging us to make conscious choices about the types of pleasure we prioritize and the sources of happiness that we seek out.
Great recap. Now in the final part of our deep dive, we'll move from theory to practice. We'll explore some practical strategies for integrating these higher levels of pleasure into our daily lives and discuss how to cultivate a mindset of gratitude, find purpose in our actions, and embrace the simple joys that surround us. Okay, so we've explored the 5 levels of pleasure and even gotten a glimpse of how they're viewed through that lens of Jewish tradition.
Yes.
But now let's get practical. How can we actually integrate these higher levels of pleasure into our daily lives?
It's not about becoming a different person overnight.
Right.
It's about making small, sustainable changes to our mindset and habits.
The videos seem to place a lot of emphasis on mindfulness.
Right.
Could that be a good starting point?
Mindfulness is an excellent place to start. It's about being present in the moment, paying attention to those small details that we often miss, and savoring those simple experiences that make up our days.
So instead of just gulping down my morning coffee, I should actually pay attention to the aroma, the taste, the warmth of the mug in my hand.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Engaging all your senses can transform even the most mundane activities into mini mindfulness exercises.
Oh,
Instead of going through the motions on autopilot,
yeah.
we become actively aware of the present moment,
Right.
which helps us tap into that level 5 joy of simply existing.
That sounds doable. But what about those bigger, more ambitious level 2 projects?
Right.
How do we even figure out what those might be for us?
Think about what truly excites you, what makes you feel most alive. It could be something you've always been drawn to, even if you haven't pursued it seriously yet.
So maybe it's finally writing that novel, learning a new language, or volunteering for a cause I'm passionate about. Things I've always thought about but never actually pursued.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to experiment. Try different things until you find something that truly resonates with your values and aspirations.
That's great advice, but let's be real for a second. Life gets busy.
Yeah.
How can we make time for these higher level pleasures when we're constantly bombarded with demands and distractions? I mean, between work, family, and trying to maintain some semblance of a social life, it feels like there's barely enough time to sleep, let alone pursue some grand life project.
That's where the concept of batul comes in, which translates to nullification or detachment.
Okay.
The video explains that it's about recognizing the limits of our control and surrendering to a higher power.
I understand how that concept kind of resonates within a religious context, but how does it apply to someone who might not believe in a higher power?
Think of it as letting go of the need to micromanage every aspect of your life. It's about accepting that you can't control everything and focusing your energy on what you can influence.
So it's about choosing our battles, prioritizing what truly matters, and releasing the grip on those things that are ultimately beyond our control.
Exactly. It's incredibly liberating to realize that we don't have to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders.
This ties back to level 4, that desire for control and mastery, right?
Yeah.
Instead of trying to control external circumstances or other people, we can focus on mastering ourselves, our reactions, and our habits.
Precisely. It's about channeling that drive for control in a healthy and productive way.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Good.
It's not just about seeking out specific types of pleasure. It's about cultivating a mindset that allows us to experience joy and fulfillment on multiple levels.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Wow.
This model isn't a rigid set of rules.
Right.
It's a framework for understanding the complexities of human desire and motivation. It encourages us to be more mindful, intentional, and balanced in our pursuit of happiness.
This has been such an insightful exploration of pleasure. I'm going to be thinking about these 5 levels for a long time.
And remember, this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
The real work starts now as you take these insights and apply them to your own life.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with this final thought. How might understanding this model change your approach to pursuing happiness and satisfaction? What small shifts can you make today to invite more of these higher level pleasures into your life?
It's not about achieving some unattainable state of bliss. It's about making conscious choices that align with your values and aspirations. It's about being present, embracing the journey, and savoring the simple joys that make life so rich and meaningful.
And on that note, we'll sign off. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep seeking those meaningful pleasures that make life truly fulfilling.